All right, today I've got an Azul strategy that I've never heard anyone speak about. Let's start with a puzzle. These are the three boards after round one for our three players. Each player will complete the top three rows, scoring the maximum possible given their start. All other points end up equal, so the final score comes down to the adjacency points in the top three rows. So we can ignore bonuses and any tiles getting placed in the fourth and fifth rows. Which one of these boards is going to score the highest and which one is going to score the lowest? Assuming the players play optimally and they're lucky enough to get all the right tiles that they need to fill in their boards optimally. So pause if you want to take some time to think about this. I asked this to my community. I asked which board they think scores the lowest, and almost everyone predictably says that the spread out board is going to end up scoring the lowest. Some people say tie, no one says the diagonal, and one person said the straight line. This is a small sample, but I hope we can all agree that C is the intuitive answer. It's not the correct answer, though. Very unintuitively, the straight line scores the lowest. And if you thought it was a tie, you're very close, but you're missing one subtle thing. So let's calculate what each of these boards score once they're filled up. So on round one, the line is going to score 6, and the diagonal is going to score 3. I'll do the spread out diagonal later. On round 2, the line scores 11, and the diagonal scores 13, so the diagonal has caught up mostly, but it's still 1 point behind in total. And on round 3, the diagonal surpasses the line, is scoring 2 points higher, and they have the same board. So the diagonal ends up scoring 2 more points by the end of the game. It's 68 to 70 for the diagonal. Now let's look at the spread out board. So this is the one that intuitively people think is going to score the least. And this time we'll play a bit differently from the normal diagonal. So this board is going to play on the sides instead of towards the middle in the first rounds, so that both of these boards match completely, and their scores also match. So now the question is the diagonal playing optimally by playing to the sides first rather than the center? Will they score the same 70 points? On the third round, they score 16. On the fourth round, they score 20. And in the last round, they score 23 for a total of 70 points. So the line does score the least, and the diagonal and the spread out diagonal are tied for scoring the most. Very unintuitive, so why does this happen? First, I'm going to explain why these two score the same, even though there's more of a gap in this one. So gaps do cause you to lose points because you will get fewer adjacency bonuses. However, only gaps that are vertical or horizontal will actually lose you points. So in this board, you're going to lose points because you have this gap here, the red, and this vertical gap here, the blue. So this is bad sequencing. You're going to score less points with this. However, diagonal gaps do not necessarily cause you to lose points. If the diagonal gap is going to force you to create a gap later, like this one, there's no gaps yet, but in the second round, we're going to play this black here, which is going to cause a vertical gap, so we're going to lose points eventually, even though there's no gaps yet. As long as the second row tile is between the first row and third row, like we had in our diagonals, you can still complete your 3 rows without losing any points. When they're staggered like this, then you might run into trouble. So this diagonal gap is not a problem because row 2 is between row 1 and row 3. So that explains why these two are the same, but it doesn't explain yet why the line scores lower. And to explain that, we need to look carefully at the scoring rules because they're kind of weird. So if there's no adjacent tiles, then it's going to score 1 point. And if there are adjacent tiles horizontally, then it's going to score all those tiles that are linked in a row. And if there's adjacent tiles vertically, it's going to score all of those. And what this means is, for each tile that has adjacent tiles both vertically and horizontally, the tile you just placed is kind of scoring twice. So it's scoring an extra point because it's counted twice for both the row and the column. So every time you score both the column and the row, you're getting an extra point. Or alternatively, every time you're not scoring both the column and the row, you're losing a point. That's why the round 1 line scores 2 fewer points. Let's look at just a very small example. If we start with a diagonal, on round 1 we score 1 point each, and then on round 2 we score 4 points each for each tile. And if we start with the line, we score 1 and 2 in the first round, and then 2 and 4 in the second round. The third tile we place is scoring less because it's not part of a column. It's only part of a row. So we want to minimize the tiles which are the first in their row or column. And if we have a diagonal start or the spread out diagonal start, then the first one in each row or column is represented by these 5 tiles. If we start with a line, then there's 7 tiles, which are the first one in their row or column. And that's because these 2 tiles are the first in their row, but not the first in their column. All right, so is this whole video just about optimizing your score by 2 points? Am I really saying that the line is better than this spread out diagonal? No, there's more to it than that. By being more flexible in what you open with on round 1, it's going to enable you to take more tiles, to take the tiles that you want, and not be pigeonholed into specific openings. So you're going to have more flexibility in the opening. It's not just about scoring the extra 2 points. And remember that there's many more openings that don't cause gaps that you can play, not just the ones I've showed in this video. For example, this one is kind of a hybrid between the diagonal and the line, and it's going to score in between the diagonal and the line. I'm going to score 69 at the end if you place optimally. And you still have to balance trying to score the most possible with your adjacency bonuses if everything goes perfectly, and being flexible. And the way you be flexible is generally by playing towards the center in the early game so that you have more options later in the game. So it's possible that the line in the center is still better than this spread out diagonal. Even if we're lucky and have perfect play, the spread out diagonal will score more. We have to get exact tiles in future rounds for this to score optimally. However, I would rather play one of these boards on the right than the straight line. And I'd definitely rather play any of these than a straight line on the edge. So while it's important to know that the diagonal is better than the line, especially if they're centralized, it's maybe even more important to know that the spread out diagonal is better than the line on the side, and those are both better, a lot better, than the gap here, which is just going to create more gaps as you fill it out. So suppose you start with 3 black. Now you know that this is an acceptable use case for opening with 3 black. It's better than just going for the line on the side, and it's definitely better than creating lots of gaps like this. Even though the blue and the black are closer to each other, the diagonal is better. That's all the Azul strategy I have for today. Let me know what you think, and check out more board game strategy guides linked in the description.